This is my Emotional and Behavior Disorders digital media project for educating exceptional students. I admire you and your husband for taking on such a challenge. I couldn't and wouldn't want to face what you have, and it's amazing that you all have grown stronger through the process. Great words like this were spoken at C's graduation from his behavioral program. He graduated 3 days short of 9 months when he thought he was already in the program for over a year and would never graduate. Yet those people missed the threat that they would not go out to dinner after C started complaining about a new program he would be starting. C didn't stop being a child with severe emotional difficulties after one successful program. Every day is a struggle for him and those around him. He may have graduated from the HEART program, which is healing and empowering adolescents recovering from trauma, but work is far from over. His diagnoses: oppositional defiant disorder, bipolar disorder, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and severe emotional trauma. Key characteristics of children with behavioral difficulties may be that they find it difficult to form friendships, often appear preoccupied, and therefore find it difficult to get involved in activities, have difficulty keeping on task, have difficulty taking part in group activities and discussion, often become tearful or throw temper tantrums for no apparent reason, have psychosomatic illnesses, have low self-esteem and often become victims of bullies, become bullies themselves, are aggressive and disruptive, find it difficult to conform to classroom rules and routines, can be excessively attention-seeking through either negative behavior or clinginess, sometimes have a school phobia, underachieve in many areas of the school curriculum. Well, the child living in my home, who is 12, has pretty much every single one of those key characteristics. He is, as we've said with his diagnoses, he is severely and emotionally traumatized from early childhood traumas, dealing with his biological mother and his stepfather, whose rights have been terminated. We have found from our own personal experience that behavioral and emotional difficulties often do come from those early childhood traumas, and work with a program that does help heal from some of those traumas. While it may not necessarily solve or get rid of the behavioral issues, understanding the trauma can help. To delve in a little deeper, bipolar disorder, which is one of the things that C has been diagnosed with, is also known as manic depressive illness. It's a serious medical condition that causes dramatic mood swings, overly high, irritable, restless, hopeless, back again, normal, between. And not only do I deal with it with him, my husband is also diagnosed bipolar, so he is in the unique position to truly understand where C is coming from. Conduct disorder, on the other hand, refers to a group of behavioral emotion programs in youngsters. Children or adolescents with this disorder have great difficulty following rules and behaving in socially acceptable ways. This may include aggression to people or animals. With C, we're lucky he doesn't have any aggression towards animals. In fact, the animals seem to be a calming tool for him. But he is very aggressive towards people at times. Destruction of property, we've seen it. Deceitfulness, lying, or stealing. Yep, bingo, all three of those are a daily factor in our lives. Truancy or other serious violations of rules. We don't have a truancy issue, but his bus is door to door. And we'll explain more about that alternative school that he attends a little bit further into this presentation. Some examples of some of C's difficulties on non-school days. This morning was a great example. Hygiene is not real high on his list, and he tends to lie or exaggerate that he has taken a shower or a bath. This morning he was telling us that he took his bath, or a shower, and so I looked in the hamper and didn't see a towel. I asked him where it was. He said, "Oh, and I'll go get it." And he brought in a couple of washcloths. And I said, "That's not a towel." And then he went, "Well, I used that. He had a story for everything. The story kept changing. We finally got to the point that he didn't have any towels, but rather than speak up, which is an issue for him, he just didn't do it. So he had to go back and take the shower. No big deal. And the other example, a few weeks ago, he was trying to discuss some issues with his brother on a sibling visit. His brother has contact with the man that abused him, and that is something that's very disturbing for C, and it bothers him a great deal, and he tried to talk to his brother about it, and his brother was blowing it off. I was very proud of the way he handled the situation. When he saw he wasn't getting anywhere, he backed off and just kind of let it go. But he talked to us later and a friend of ours about how much it did bother him that his brother continues to have this contact. Some examples of difficulties on his school days. He loves his recess and has a hard time being on time for class. Well, the teachers got together and decided he was going to lose a minute of recess for every minute he was late for class. For most children, that would be an acceptable punishment. It fits the crime. For C, he decided it was more important to have his recess, so he started arguing with the teacher and throwing things and got physically aggressive. She got out the video camera to videotape him, as is the school policy. Well, that really upset him. He did not want to be videotaped, so he started throwing things trying to break the camera. Long story short, he ended up with an in-school suspension. Another situation we've been dealing with that actually earned him 2 days of suspension was a fellow student has been kicking his chair all year. Rather than telling a teacher, coming home and telling us so that we can help the situation, he chose to blow up. And the kid kicked him, so he beat him bloody. He doesn't always necessarily handle situations in the right way. His background. He was emotionally and physically abused and abandoned by his mother and stepfather. He's been in multiple foster homes, mental hospitals, and juvenile detention centers from the age of 6. He continues to deal with early childhood trauma. His family members. He has limited contact with his grandmother. While she is his educational advocate, he sees her once or twice a year, talks to her about the same time. His brother, he lived with in the same foster home until coming to us. There were some major issues before coming to us, so that it's no longer a good situation for them to live together, but sibling visits have resumed with our supervision. They also have a half-sister who was adopted shortly after they were taken into the system, and he has no contact with her. He needs a family. He has no real bonds, and so we're trying to build that family connection. A lot of his anger stems from that situation. He stores it up until he blows up in physical violence. He doesn't want to be a snitch, so he won't ask for help. We've tried to show him that there are ways he can do it without feeling like a snitch, such as coming home and telling us we can be the ones to call the school so that the teachers are more ready to be on the lookout. Emotional regulation includes the ability to initiate, maintain, and alter emotional responses. Most children with emotional problems have difficulty with this regulation, and I have seen it firsthand. Some children blow up, some withdraw and shut down. With C, he does both. He reminds me a lot of, in the textbook, the story of Bobby, who had the emotional disturbances. And as I was reading Bobby's story, they're of a similar age, and the stories were almost identical. Some helps in place for C. He attends an alternative school. His IEP says that he cannot be successful in a normal school, which is just fine with us. Alternative school, they're better equipped to deal with his behaviors. He also attends psychosocial groups. He works with social workers and therapists. He has an attendant care worker who goes with him to his psychosocial group, and another one is being rematched to go with him, to take him out into the community to deal with things. He's finished the behavioral program HEART, which I explained earlier is through United Methodist Youth Phil, and is dealing with helping children recover from trauma. And we've also created an aftercare piece to that called CAB, which is consistent actions and behaviors. And we're getting ready to start that with him, and we're hoping it's going to be a success. According to Martin Henley and Nicholas Long, teachers and caregivers need to first be aware and sensitive to warning signs of developing emotional problems. Secondly, they should be following strategies to help students overcome their emotional barriers to learning. Make learning relevant, which isn't always easy. Help students establish positive peer relationships. We're working on that with him through his psychosocial groups. Teach behavior management skills. We've gone through the behavior management programs, and that does seem to help, but it is not finishing it. Support activities that foster feelings. Feelings of confidence, strengthen social relationships, and bolster self-efficacy. It's a daily struggle, but we're working on it. Help students deal with stress. We've got great programs in place with his school and at home to work on that. Instill hope. Not always easy for a child, especially like C, who doesn't accept positive reinforcement real well. So we have to be careful about how we do it. Support strategies. You may need to ensure a consistent approach to the child's behavior. Consistency is something I will always advocate for kids who have behavior issues. When you're consistent, it just helps. Those behavior management strategies, again, what works for one's not going to work for everybody. It's a lot of trial and error. Encourage the provision of a positive classroom environment. His school is great. They're small classrooms. They have a cool down room where the kids can go if they need it. Group and class discussions. His school is great about that. They do have a little bit of everything. And let's move on here. My realizations as I've worked through this class, the foster care system that I've worked with, and my previous experience. Working with kids with behavior and emotional disorders are not easy. They're not fun. But these children with severe behavioral and emotion issues really need the extra help and the attention. I have realized for myself that high school students, it's almost too late, and they don't fit well with our family situation. Middle school kids like C, there's still that chance to change. They want to change, and they're still malleable enough to do it. Elementary school kids are also still malleable because they're still learning. Preschool kids, which are my passion, if I can identify and perhaps avoid some of those traumas from becoming behavioral issues when they're young, that's why I really want to get back into teaching preschool, because I know it can help.